All right, hello and welcome to the Expert Hour for 7/22/2014. So my name is JP, and we'll kind of be talking about some Syncfrog stuff today. Here we have the Syncfrog main page, and what we're a data leaping utility, and we can take your information from SurveyMonkey, Twitter, Salesforce reports, Google spreadsheets, and forms, and put it into a CRM of your choice, including Dynamics, Infusionsoft, Oracle, Marketo, Salesforce. I do realize Marketo is not a CRM, but we can actually integrate to it. And this is really set up so you don't need to get your IT involved, and it can be scheduled and everything along those lines. So I'm going to do a quick demo here, and what we're going to do is we are going to use a Google spreadsheet, one I have created here, and let's um, and snake. All right, and well, one I. So inside this Google spreadsheet, what we're going to have is we're going to have Mr. Snake Plissken here, and his email address, an opportunity, and a the opportunity stage and a close date on that. Also, we have Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and I don't remember her last name, and just another fake company here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a data leap to grab this particular spreadsheet every day and have it create an account, a contact, and a opportunity tied to that account. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Syncfrog, the application itself, and we're going to create our new data leap. And I'm going to say our source app, and we're going to say our Google spreadsheet. And today we're using Salesforce for our CRM, but this could be any of the CRMs. I just happened to pick Salesforce today. Did it last week with Infusionsoft was the choice last week. And we'll click on next. And we have our account, contact, and op create, which is the name of our file here. You can see it. And our creation collection method. Do we want incremental, any new rows, or all rows? Incremental will be any new rows that were added to this file since the last time it was synced. So I'm going to use incremental today. And we are going to click on next. We're going to put our credentials in for our Salesforce. And we're going to call this example for 7/22. And click on create. And our first choice that we're making today is, okay, take me to our mapping, because we want to map this right off the bat instead of doing it at a later date. So it's going to give Syncfrog a moment to pull our information, and the first thing we want to do is create a account. So we're going to click on our Salesforce type here, it's account, and we're going to click on add new section. I do want to create a new account. So inside of our Google spreadsheet here, we have our account name. That is easy enough to send over. And then that's going to go to our Salesforce fields, and that would be to account name. So we have account name to account name. That is easy enough. Now we want to create a new contact that has that will be associated with this account. So in our Salesforce types here, we have all of our basic types at the top and any advanced types further down. Advanced types would be also your not as frequently used objects. And then you have your custom types here at the bottom, which would be any custom fields that you've created inside of your CRM. So with that being said, we want the contact object. So we're going to click on contact, add new section, and we'll be creating a new contact. So again, we're going to use our one-to-one mapping here. So we have our Google spreadsheet, and that would go to last name. So we have our contact last name, and we can use this lovely little auto map fields button, and that'll attempt to automatically provide our information. So you can see that it did last name, account name to account ID, which we're going to fix in a second here. Contact email to our email, our contact first name to first name. Now the reason why we have to change the account name going to the account ID reference, well, this is looking for the ID value and not the actual name that's in our spreadsheet. So this is looking for something along the lines of this value up here. So if we have widget co here, it's actually looking for that value up here in our URL bar, that 001 da 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 da. So that is a ID value. So we want to pass over that ID value. Well, since we did our account mapping first, this will create our new account, and we can use that ID value. So in our dropdown here, we will have this reference one account. What that will do is we'll grab the ID value from our first mapping panel and use it in our second mapping panel. So that'll relate our ID values, and therefore relating our account. Now we want to add our opportunity, and again, just simply select it from our Salesforce types, click on Add New Section, and we'll be creating a new opportunity record, right? So we have a close date, and again, we have our close date here, and you notice that I have it in the format of year dash month dash day, and that's the format that Salesforce wants that information in. So we will put close date to our close date. I have our name, which will go to our opportunity name, which is spelled wrong. And then we have our stage. So our stage field, we have to know what value to put that in. So for our opportunity here, and I'm just going to go to a existing opportunity, we have to have stage. So it could be closed one, prospecting, qualification, needs analysis, value. So what are we going to do? We're going to do prospecting. Okay, so inside of here, inside of our opportunity, we need our stage. So we're going to use another nice little trick. We're going to use our fixed value, and we're going to type in prospecting. And what that will do is automatically pass over the value of prospecting to our stage for all of these values coming across. So you can see that it's not in our spreadsheet. So we're just going to use Syncfrog to automatically populate that information for us. Now, you notice we can create an opportunity without an account. So again, we're going to use that lovely relationship, and we want to tie this to an account, correct? So there we have our account ID reference, and again, we're going to use our reference one account, and that's going to provide our ID values. And again, we can go ahead and answer any other questions that we need to or want to have answered. So if anything else on our spreadsheet, so if we had private, probability percentage, something along those lines that you wanted to have automatically filled out or have inside of your file, you can. So since we do not, we're going to go ahead and check that box and click on our field mappings. So let's just go over for a review as we're creating a new account using the account name in our spreadsheet, and that's going to create an account inside of Salesforce. Then we've moved on to creating a new contact using their last name, their email, and their first name, and then we're referencing the newly created account in our first mapping panel, and that provides our ID value. And lastly, we have our opportunity being created, which is we have our close date, we have our opportunity name from our file, our fixed value of prospecting to our stage field for our pick list, and we also have it tied to a specific account, and that again is using our ID value. So we'll go ahead and click on save. Okay, so we'll scroll down here to our last one here, and we have example for 722. And I'm going to go ahead and click on activate. And since I have a premium account, I can create a schedule for this to be automatically pulled every day at the same time, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. So if I had a basic account, I would get to pull this on a monthly or all the way up to our premium account, which is our platinum, down to an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that, and I'm just going to run that now. All right, that's going to grab our Google spreadsheet data. Cool. So that gives us our data leap. So now we have 3 total newly created records, and we can actually see it in our log details here. Is we have our create, and there's their ID value, our contact and the ID value, our opportunity and the ID value, and again it did this 3 times for 3 records. So here's our first record, our second record, and lastly our third record and the ID value associated for each. So there was 9 entries created off of 3 records. So if I go back into Salesforce here and I go to accounts and I say new this week, click on go. All right, so we have Manco. Well, that's the new one that we created that you saw me editing. And we have me being the creator. And there is our contact that we've created. And there is their opportunity. So we have the opportunity here, and again, our stage. And you notice that our close date has come across properly and is viewing properly. So it has the date of 4/14/2015 instead of the value that we saw inside of here, as that's how it has to be formatted for Salesforce. We are working on having a transform data for date fields, so you can put it in a normal format and have it transformed to be a proper date for Salesforce. A functionality doesn't exist yet, but we are working on it, and I cannot wait. So yeah, there is our account being created, and there's our contact. So you can see Mr. Snake Plissken here, you know, the account name and email, and again, we have our opportunity. So there's our name that we provided, prospecting, and our default value of our probability and everything along those lines as well. So that's kind of cool. I mean, we just did 9 records off of 1 data leap, which is 3 records inside of here. So that's a really simple data load using Syncfrog. Now, I did this to create new for all of it. We can also use this to update the existing or create a new record. One of our default values here is update existing or create new. And that will allow you to use the account name field, and going off of the account name field from your Google spreadsheet equals your account field inside of Salesforce, and if we find multiples, what you want us to do. So this would actually update an existing record or create a new one. And again, you can also do that for contacts. Contact would be a little bit different because you won't have first name, last name. One of the things you do have that's usually the best unique identifier inside of your CRM is this lovely field called, well, email. As usually that is the most unique identifier besides a ID value that you might have inside of Salesforce. So in this particular scenario, you could do an update existing or create new record. And again, that would work for any of our fields. So you could do update existing or create new record with the opportunity, and you could use the opportunity name or anything along those lines to actually update the existing or create a new record value. So not only can we create the records, but we can have some logic in place as well to create them or update depending on the values being assigned inside of Salesforce. So that's kind of cool. So another use case that people use with Salesforce is the ability to send out a SurveyMonkey survey and have that information synchronized back to Salesforce. So what we'll do is I've already got SurveyMonkey set up here, and I have a CSAT survey called 7/1. And I'm going to click on collect responses, and I'm going to add a new collector here. And I'm going to say email collector, and I'm going to say hello at syncfrog.com. And call it snake. Again. So, and actually, it won't be snake. Actually, we'll say PJ Leaper, not leper. So we have our hello at Syncfrog and their first name, last name, just like it states inside of here. And we can actually put a custom data field in here as well if we needed to. That could be anything from the contact ID, a case ID, any value that you want us to be able to pass into Salesforce. And we'll click on add recipients. So we have one recipient now on our list, and we'll click on save and continue. And you're just using SurveyMonkey's built-in email capability. So, and we will click on send now. And that will wait 4 minutes, so probably at 10 a.m. my time, that will send out. So cool. We have sent out the CSAT survey 7/1. I know it's 7/22. So what we're going to do is we're going to map that information over to Salesforce. So inside of Salesforce here, we're going to use SurveyMonkey, and again, Salesforce, and our credentials that we have for SurveyMonkey. And this is just a free account for SurveyMonkey. So we have our CSAT survey 7/1. And we only want email invitation 2 in this particular case.
Like I said, you can,
and I only want new responses. Example, CSAT for 7/22. And again, we will go into our mapping screen here. So, where are we going to map this to? Well, inside of Salesforce, I am going to create a custom object. So, the first thing we want to do is we need to know what fields we want and how do we want this associated. So here's my survey that we sent out. It's a support call with four questions on our matrix and a comments field. So inside of Salesforce, I want to create a custom object that's going to house our 5 questions here, and also be defined to, well, confined to our contact. So inside of our app setup here, we're going to click on create, and we're going to say objects, and I'm going to create a new custom object, and we're going to call it example 7/22. 7/22. Awesome. So one thing that we will do when we set up our custom object is we definitely want to allow reporting on this object. That way we can do all of our running of our reports inside of Salesforce using Salesforce reports and run dashboards and anything along those lines. And we want to track field history, and you can allow activities if you want as well. Activities would allow you to create tasks off of it, send emails, all that good jazz. And we make sure that this object is deployed, otherwise it will make it quite difficult to map to. And we will click on Save. So now that's saving our new object, we want to go ahead and create our fields, right? So we're going to create our new custom field and relationship. So the first thing I want to do is create our relationship to a contact. So we have our lookup relationship here. What that will do is that'll look up our contact for us. So we're going to click on Next, and it's going to ask us related to, well, we're going to say contact. And we will click on Next. And we'll just simply click here, click there, and that automatically populates our field name. Click on Next. Make sure it's visible for our user.
You can, like I said, you can manipulate the
Look at our page layout,
in the layout section,
and we're going to click on Save and New.
The only other way to.
So now that we have our relationship built, we want to build a field for each of our questions. So in this particular case, I'm going to use a text field. It's really simple. Even though we're passing over numbers, because that's our option text here, I'm going to use text because maybe I want to change eventually this to saying poor and this to being excellent and text all the way through instead of our numbers here. So now that we have done that, so we have our first question, and I am lazy, so I'm just going to copy and paste for each one of those and give it our length. Again, this is really simple. Save and New. Again, copying our exact text. Going to our text question here. The reason why I like to use exact text is gives you the best overall insight on what you actually asked on your survey, and also makes mapping a heck of a lot easier instead of having 5 fields called, question, answer, or answer, or answer. So that's why I like to use exact text from it. Now, again, there is a field limit of how long you can make a field label. I believe it's like 60 characters or something along those lines is your limit. So I usually just crop it to what makes the most sense from our survey. And we'll click on Next here. Next, we have our speed of response. Then we have our courtesy question, right? So go back to that one, click on Save and New. And again, that's going to bring us to our text here. And click on Next.
And then find that default template.
And there we go.
Once you go into that template, you have the options in there of changing. You can change basically all of the.
And we have our last question, which is, are any further comments you wish us to know? And instead of using a regular text field, we're going to use text area long. As this would give us a larger amount of characters to work with instead of our regular text, or just a text area, which only gives us 1055 or 255. And that's interesting. They just upped the amount. This used to be 64,000 characters. Now it's 131,072. So that must be part of the new release.
Thanks for calling. You have a good day.
And
Take care.
again, any further comments you wish us to know. And I'm just going to keep the length of the 32,000 because I think that's plenty. Click on next, next, and click on save. So now we've created a custom object called example 722 with our lookup to our contact and a field for each one of our questions. Awesome. So now we can go into our mapping. The first thing I'm going to have to do is click on this refresh types button. The reason being is I've already pulled my information from Salesforce. Now that I've created a new object, it wouldn't show our custom object. So this is going to refresh all of our information from Salesforce. So if I go back to down to our bottom list here, and we have our custom types, we should have our example 722. Awesome. But first, I want to do that contact, right? So we're going to go to contact, and we are going to add a new section. Awesome. So we want to create a new contact or update existing. So I want to update existing or create new. And I'm going to be using the respondent email address, right? Because we use SurveyMonkey to send this out. So we're going to say email to email. And if I have multiple email addresses, I'm going to use the last record. And again, we are just going to do the same type of things, respondent last name, and we'll use the auto map fields. So it gives us our last name, email, first name. Perfect. So that's going to update existing or create our new contact. And again, we're going to use that lovely relationship thing for our custom object. So click on our Salesforce types here, and we have our example 722. And click on add new section. So now that we have our custom object, what do we want to have happen, right? So we want to um, create a new record every single time, right? So every time they take the survey, we can give new survey results on this object about their latest support case or what have you. So we have our create new record, and we are going to use the auto map field to see what happens. Awesome. So any further comments you wish us to know? That goes to any further comments you wish us to know. Our courtesy question going to courtesy, knowledge to knowledge, professionalism to professionalism, speed of response going to speed of response. So that did a good job of answering all of our questions that we normally would have to do in our drop down, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do our relationship to our contact, and we're also going to give it a name as well. So I'm going to click on map new fields, and again, we're going to use our drop down list here, and we're going to say reference one contact, right? It's going to grab our ID value, and there is our contact reference field. So that'll grab our ID value and use it in our custom object because it's going in order. And we're also going to map one other field, which is going to be our fixed value. And we should have a example 722 name, right? And we'll say CSAT survey 7/22 because that is the session that we've sent out with our data. So we're going to go ahead and click on save and click on OK. Now in another screen that you can't see, I get the survey link to from my email. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up here. Click on enter. And we have our response. And I kind of made a mess of that. So if I do survey options, let's see. That's under collect responses. Edit collector. Recipients. All right, so we have our change settings. And save settings. All right, so we have our CSAT survey. So if I click on 9876, and this was a test, and we click on done. Excellent. So that's given us some updated data. So if we go to hello@syncfrog.com, we see PJ Leaper, right? And I haven't synchronized their data yet, so you'll see our example objects 722, and you can see a whole bunch of other objects I've created. So if we go back to our Syncfrog here, and example for 722, and it's going to be, there it is, example CSAT for 722. Again, we can click on activate. We'll click on run now. And that's going to grab our SurveyMonkey data. All right, we should get one record processed. And again, we can click on that view log details. And since I am on a premium account, I can actually export this to a Google spreadsheet. And if I had any failures, I can fix them with a Google spreadsheet and just re-upload them and resync from my spreadsheet file. So we have our update of our contact, and there's our contact record. So that's matching to this guy here. And we also have our creation, and there's our target ID of our record. So if I go to Mr. PJ Leaper here and I refresh the page, you see that we have our example 722 name and our CSAT survey 722. Go ahead and click on that, and you can see that our 9, 8, 7, and a 6. And then lastly, our text of this was a test. Really simple. And we can run a dashboard or run a report on the CSAT survey and see every single person, and that we can also break it down. So that is a couple of use cases for using Syncfrog. Just a really quick data load using Google Sheet, and also a CSAT survey using SurveyMonkey. Now, you can do this with any of our targets. So this could be Infusionsoft. This is the one doing with sugar. We even have data leaps from Twitter to Salesforce in this case, or Twitter to sugar. Or here's an example using Infusionsoft. Exactly the same type of stuff. So the connector and everything along those lines, exactly the same. It's just update existing or create new. And now it's using Infusionsoft. So if you have any further questions or need any clarification, please feel free to ask us on our community at help.syncfrog.com. Thank you for taking your time today, and have a great day and happy leaping.